Okay, since some of you have expressed interests, well, this is the oldest camera that I have in my collection of cameras, and this is a really old camera, very special camera for me, because this was the camera that I learned the art of photography on way back 20 years ago. And before they had digital cameras, you learned photography using traditional film cameras like this one. And this particular model here is a Canon TX, and this is Canon's version of the Pentax K1000, if you've ever heard of that camera. And I have definitively dated this camera as having been manufactured in September of 1977, so it predates me by a little more than 2 years. And how you work this camera was that you'd have to load film into the back of it. And so to get the film in, you've got this little dial here, and you pull it up and it would unlock the door on the back here, and then it would pop in. You'd pop your film canister in here, you'd run it across the film gate here, and then you'd wrap it around this little sprocket here, which took the film in, and then into this here you'd wrap it into this, which would then wind the film up. And so you get that all done, and then there is a pressure pad here to hold the film on the gate, and then this is the shutter mechanism, and then you've got two guide rollers here. So you would close this up and your film camera would be locked, and it would keep light away from the film because you obviously could not get light on the film. And so you shoot your rolls of film, and you got real basic controls on the top here. This is your shutter speed control here, and you can go from bulb mode 1 second, or actually I think this is 1 second. Let me see if I can get some light in here so that you can see this a little better. Let me do it this way here. So you've got bulb mode, which is basically you attach an external shutter control into the release here, and it would control it manually. You would push the shutter release and it would stay open as long as you held it down. And then you had shutter speeds of a second, half second, quarter, eighth, and so on. 30th of a second, 60th of a second. And this camera all the way went up to 500ths of a second. And then you had your film speed sensor here, or your film speed adjustment here, and to set that, you would pull up on the outer ring and you would rotate it so that the numbers would match the film that you had in the camera, so that you would get a good exposure. Now I've got 3 lenses with this camera. This lens here is the standard 50mm kit lens that comes with the camera. It's made by Canon. There's your controls. My camera would focus. It's f1.8 50mm, and then this is a 28mm lens, which is wide angle, and this one will open up to 2. This one is also 2.8, and then I've got a 75 to 200mm zoom with macro, and this one has a range of 4.5 all the way down to 22. And so to change out the lenses on this camera, these cameras were unique because they had a very different mounting system than the traditional cameras. The cameras that you might think of, like the EOSs and all the other ones, you insert the lens and then you twist it. But this one has it does it completely opposite. There is a ring that you undo here, and then you can pull it off, and then you can stick another lens on there. And there's a look inside. This is a single lens reflex camera. The reflex part coming from the fact that there is a mirror in here, that when you release the shutter to take a picture, it flips up and then it opens the shutter and then it pops back down. And then under there is the focusing screen, and if my camera will cooperate with me, I might actually show you that in action here, because there are also some other neat things. And then you've got this lever here, and then you can see it actuates a little finger in there, and that finger controls the step down function of the iris, so that you can see what your depth of field is going to look like when you take the picture. And then over here you've got a hookup for a flash, and then you've also got a hot shoe here, and one of the tabs is broken off, but you can put a flash on there. And if it's got the trigger mechanism on the bottom, you can, or it'll, when you close the shutter, it connects a circuit and it fires the flash off. But yeah, I'll put the wide angle lens on here. There's a protective cap that goes over the back, and then this is what the lens mechanism looks like. This little finger here tells the camera what the iris is set at, and then this one here, it controls your step down functions, or at least I think it's or it might be the exact opposite, but these two fingers here help the camera with metering. And again, you just line up. Where is that little red tab? There is a little red tab right there, and you line that up with the red tab that's on the camera, and it'll click, and then you can put that in place. Oh, and on the bottom here, when you're done shooting your film, when your roll is completely exposed, you push this button in and you hold it, and you pull out the little winder thing, and you can wind your film back into the canister. But I'm going to pause this here, and I will try and show you what it looks like through the viewfinder, and hopefully my camera will cooperate with me on it. Okay, so I'm shooting this through the viewfinder of my I'm trying to get the viewfinder through the lens of my camera here, and I might actually switch to my phone here because I think that this might make a better recording. Let me try. Okay, so I've actually found a use for my smartphone camera. This is what it looks like in the viewfinder of my Canon camera here, and I'm going to try and adjust it here. I've got something up here that hopefully will not interfere with, or at least get me in trouble with YouTube. But I don't know if you can see it, but kind of right over here where my finger is, you see a needle and you see a circle. That is how you do exposure on these cameras. There's a little light sensor in here, and as I go up and down on the iris, you can kind of see it change. But if I'm going to move this over a little bit here so you can see the needle and ring better. I'm going to adjust the film speed on the camera, and as I do that, you can see the battery on this thing is still good, by the way. But as I adjust the film speed, you can see the light meter going up. And so to balance the two out, you would do your iris so that ring and the line match up, and then you would take your picture. And also in the center there is also a focusing screen. I'll put my iris back open again here, and you can see that focusing screen. And as I play with it, you can see the focus change. That's infinity. And although you can't see it on the camera here, there is kind of the circle there in the middle is the focusing screen, and what it is, it's a pattern, and it creates an interference when your picture is out of focus. And the closer to in focus you get, the more that pattern disappears, and so you know that you're in focus when you don't see that interference pattern anymore. I should point out that at least right here, there's a little plastic window that protects the film count. The film counter, this is the film counter, and this tells you how many shots you've taken, but there's a little plastic window in here. That came unglued, and it got into the mechanism, and it's jammed up. So unfortunately I can't demonstrate the shutter in action, because if I do this, it does not move. It's completely jammed. And so what I need to do is I need to get a jeweler's screwdriver kit one of these days and get really brave and try and get into this thing to see if I can see where it's jammed and if there's anything that I can do to fix it. And so that is an overview of my 1977 Canon TX classic film single lens reflex, totally manual film camera.